Welcome to episode 328 of the DFO Rundown, presented by Fountain Tire. You and your family's safety is important, and Fountain Tire specializes in tire and auto service, so you don't have to settle for a good deal or good customer service, because at Fountain Tire, they'll do both. Treat your vehicle like it's their vehicle. If you need new tires, or maybe your engine has a little rattle, stop in at Fountain Tire today. Book your appointment at fountaintire.com. I'm Jason Gregor, as we welcome in Frank Saravalli. And Frankie, first of all, we'll get to hockey in a second, but I know when this year started, you were on a quest to shed a few LBs. From afar, it looks like you have. What's the update?
I tried not to weigh myself too often because I don't want to get discouraged.
Yes.
And I know it's a long road. I know it's a marathon, not a sprint, but weighed myself for the first time, started really, trying again on September 1st, and I'm down 19 as of yesterday. So
19 in just over 6 weeks. That's pretty good. That's pretty healthy. Right now, did you have a set goal? Because weight is one thing. Inches are the big one. I talked to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So.
I've tried just to not focus on the weight. Like, I just realized my clothes are fitting better. I just feel better. Sleeping better, I think. So, look, I think it's the hard part is really trying to not get discouraged and overwhelmed, because that's a little bit of what I'm feeling today is like, yeah, the progress has been good, but I have such a long way to go that I just, that part's hard. Not going to lie.
No, that's fair. And just remind yourself that, what the big picture is. You're right. Because, that's where I think a lot of people get discouraged, and then you kind of fall back into the old ways. So maintain on the path, buddy. 19 pounds. That's good. It's a much better start than some NHL teams have had this season.
The meal prep has been really important.
Oh, yeah. You got to eat. Exercise is one thing, but man, eating is so important. Just for the better you eat, your odds of having success increase drastically.
It's just been a huge lifestyle change as a whole. Like, I'm usually a night owl who's watching all the late games, and I'd get up around 7:30, 8 o'clock. Now I've been rolling into the gym 5 minutes before 6, and it's just a totally different, that part's been hard too. Now the games are going again. You want to watch what's happening out west to talk about it. You got to know what's happening. But I found that I've been okay kind of consuming some of that in the morning when I get up.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. I record a lot of the games and watch it in the morning. It's, you can fast forward stuff. You can also kind of stop and focus on things. So I find
if I don't go in the morning, my day just gets away from me. So I don't, it's like the only option I have is to get it in and get it done.
No, it's true. Well, good on you, buddy. Good on you. Keep it up.
I'm really trying.
Now, hey, let's start where we started with the positive. Let's continue with it. The Evgeny Malkin early season debut. He is on fire. He just scored his 500th career goal. He's got 11 points to lead the NHL in scoring right now, man. He is off to an unreal start.
And what a night in Pittsburgh. I mean, the fact that he's 3 clear of everyone else in the league in points is bananas. This is his best start of his career, believe it or not. And just the way that Wednesday night played out in Pittsburgh, I mean, it's first off, like, really ugly to start, right? Tristan Jarry gets pulled, and I think that's a huge storyline moving forward. We can talk about him and eventually Alexander Georgiev, but Jarry gets pulled. Blomqvist comes in. He's excellent, but the Penguins are down. They claw all the way back, and then Buffalo scores twice in succession, 40 seconds apart. And all of a sudden the Penguins are down again. And then you've got these milestone moments, right? It's been a crazy start to the season for Malkin and Crosby, just kind of crossing those thresholds, 1,600 points, 500 goals. It's been super impressive to watch, but then so fitting, right? They tied up late, last minute of the game, goalie pulled, and who scores the OT winner, 21st of his career? Crosby, assisted from Malkin just, 45 minutes after the bench is cleared, or the Penguins bench cleared to celebrate Malkin and his 500th goal. Just magical stuff.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the Tristan Jarry situation is kind of that you got two ends of the spectrum there. You got Malkin and Crosby playing great, and then you've got the goaltender who faced 5 shots, allows 3 goals in 11 minutes and 33 seconds, and that's the second. That's a second subpar performance so far already this season, and you know what, goaltending across the league, man. There's always a few question marks in different places, and so we'll see where he's at. He's obviously, I wouldn't be surprised. Usually those goalies, you're going to need a few days of just working with your goalie coach and not focused on starting. And I wonder if that's the point here where we might just see that, where he gets almost like a week straight of practice.
I just don't know. Not that I disagree with that game plan. That's the only alternative I think they have right now. But I have some serious questions about Jarry moving forward and that contract. And we touched on it a couple pods ago, but the fact that, we were a couple games into the season and Mike Sullivan was already turning to Blomqvist saying, "Hey, we're going to go with the guy who gives us the best chance to win." I think it's also fair to point out, like, as young as Yoel Blomqvist is, he's actually a really pedigreed guy. The Penguins, they were all over this guy in Finland, and he's a second round pick. He's only 22, which makes him incredibly young by goalie standards, but he's been playing at a really high level for a while and against men. And, the big thing that's been the differentiator is he hasn't played that many games in a season, but this is someone that I can tell you from a couple deadlines ago when Ron Hextall was still in the chair as Penguins GM, teams were calling trying to get Blomqvist in trades. Like as the Penguins were making moves to try and improve their team, they were all calling and asking about Blomqvist. Hey, can you throw him into the deal? And the Penguins are like, no, this guy's going to be good. So he's been on their radar for a bit, and I'm excited to see him potentially run with it because the way that he came in and really quieted things down gave the Penguins a chance to win on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think they got to go with him against Carolina in their next game before they head out on the road trip out west. So it'll they're not the only team though, Frank, man. You look around the league, you mentioned Colorado and Georgiev, excuse me. They're 0-4 now, and goaltending is definitely a concern, but so is their depth. Like, oh my goodness, their forward lines last night in that game. You've got O'Connor on your second line, and he's got a career high of 13 goals and 25 points. And then Kovalenko's got 4 NHL games. He's got no points. And that's their second line wingers right now because Lekkonen's out, Duran's out, Nichushkin's out. Landeskog, who knows if he'll play. Taves didn't play last night. So not only is their depth right now not good, their goaltending is just as bad. Like, they got a lot of problems in Colorado. And I don't know if I see an easy fix because it's not like you got these guys coming back from injury next week.
No, there is no easy fix, which is, again, going back to the preseason. This is why I had said the Avs are the biggest wild card in the NHL. Did you have them winning the division?
No, I had Dallas.
You had Dallas, but you had Colorado second, right?
I think I had them third.
Okay, but either way, I saw some people saying that they're going to win the division, and I'm going like I feel like you're missing part of it with how much they were so cap strapped over the summer that they couldn't really go out and make moves to improve this team. They saw the holes, the depth, and the issues, but when you're having to fill those roles with pretty much the most you can make is $925, you're in a really difficult position. So I do feel for the Avs in the sense that they've got some glaring weaknesses that there are no ready fixes for. And the other part is it just looks and feels like Georgiev is broken. And we've got a really big sample size now that we're talking about. I mentioned last pod, 74 games last season at 897. This season, he's not at 800. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how quickly you can get Capo Kakinen a visa, but someone, I don't care who it is, even if you're calling someone up from the AHL, someone else needs to be in net for the Avs. Georgiev is not giving you a chance to win.
No, like play Annunen if you have to, but I know that that's not necessarily ideal either. But at this point, you got to try something. You're right. Now Kakanen's got all of the visa issues, so I don't know how quick that's going to be solved. You know, it can vary. We've seen guys take up to 2 weeks to get that figured out. So, you know, it's when you look at it, like it's funny why Annunen has yet to start a game, Frank. Are you surprised by that? They played 4 games. Now he's made 2 appearances. He's come in relief twice, but Jared Bednar, he seems to want to be trying to support his starting goaltender by giving him every start. But, you know, he's got an 800 save percentage. Now, I guess Annunen, granted, in limited minutes.
It's sub 800, is it not?
Yeah. No, he's right at 800. And then Annunen is sub. Annunen's 765. So, you know, granted, he's only played 51 minutes in 2 relief appearances, but that's probably, you know, he's looking and saying, yeah, I guess I could go to my other guy, but my other guy's actually worse.
Yeah, pulled twice and 17 goals against in 4 games for Georgiev.
Yeah.
Like they're not even 4 complete games.
No. Oh God, no.
It's highly alarming. And you know, he plays the whole game against the Bruins, but isn't that telling, right? Like, I mean, it is to me, gives up 4, and that was like a step forward for him, was completing the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that. Now, they're right now, you take out their top line and they can't compete, right? So your goalie's got to stand on his head. You know, Taves is out now, although it doesn't seem like it's going to be that long, but still he's out. And then you throw in all their depth guys, like their forward group, Frank. Like honestly, if you ask the average hockey fan to name 5 forwards currently on the roster, not name McKinnon and Rantanen, I think it might be hard.
Yeah, and I just think what that does is the pressure ratchets up on some younger guys in the lineup, and it's unfair. Cal Ritchie, the spot that he's like, you're like, what you're asking of some of these guys is a lot.
Yeah. Now, one other team that's had early season success, but it's 3 consecutive starts now where Connor Ingram's, now they've won 2 of the games because they're scoring lots of goals, but you know, they lose another high scoring game last night against the Ducks. And in his last 3 starts, he's allowed 14 goals on, 68 on 95 shots, right? Like he's got an 852 save percentage over the 853, 853, 852, his last 3 starts. Any concern at all about Utah's team defense and their goaltending, because they've been giving up a ton of goals. Now, usually they outscore them, but now they haven't. They didn't to the Ducks last night in OT.
Well, the amazing part about Ingram is that given all that you just said, he still hasn't lost yet. 3-0.
Well, I lost in overtime last night, right? But
right, 3-0-1, right. What I look at is he's seen the most rubber in the league. I think it's more a team defense thing than necessarily Ingram. 121 shots is the most anyone's faced.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that said, I think things are about to get more difficult for Utah because that Sean Durzi injury is enormous. And I don't know that it's gotten enough attention. We're talking, he might not be back until February. Like it's a significant injury. It's going to be a while. And the tough part is talking to people in Utah, some have said he's been their best defenseman so far, that he's outplayed Sergachev. So when you have that to start the year, and obviously everyone's excited, but such an early injury, it takes the wind out of your sails. That part is really difficult. So it's, if the team defense is of concern and the shot volume that they're giving up, and I'd have to really check and dive in on shot quality, I don't see a path right in the immediate future for it to get much better.
Well, it's hard, right? It's hard to find D-men that can play 20 minutes a night for you. You can, and you always say, well, you know, you have somebody who can step up. And I believe that can happen for a short period of time. But eventually, when you're asking guys to play above their normal standing on your roster, a lot of times eventually it just catches up to you.
Well, look, Ian Cole's now over 21 minutes a night for the season.
Yeah.
Robert Bortuzzo makes his season debut. He only plays 10. It's going to be by committee because that's the only thing they can do. But you're now pushing Sergachev to near 27 minutes. So Kesselring now is suddenly playing on Utah's top pair.
Yeah.
And by the way, Kesselring, man, what a tough trade that is for the Oilers. Like Bjugstad, it was Bjugstad and it was Bjugstad for Kesselring and something, right?
Yeah, as the third, I think.
I mean, Bjugstad didn't really do a ton for the Oilers in that stretch. And then
he was pretty good actually in the playoffs for them. He played quite well, but he's a rental player, right? Like what did he play? 12 playoff games that year. So
okay, but the point is, look at where the Oilers are at now.
Yeah.
The Oilers could really use a Kesselring now.
Oh yeah, I think Cam Dineen was also in that trade for Edmonton, but he's an AHL defenseman.
Okay.
That
was a tough deal. Like it's one of those trades you look back on, you don't really think much at the time because you go, oh, I don't know that we really significantly moved a ton of assets if you're the Oilers, because you're thinking, oh, Bjugstad's a good depth piece. But for what he ended up being, where he played in the lineup, I know you said he was good, but the amount of time he ended up being there, and then now the flip side of it is Kesselring. You know, the Oilers could have really used that now.
Yeah, you know what? He's taken some pretty big strides. And so, yeah, you'll look at them. Their internal evaluation on Kesselring was off. I think there's no other way to say it, because you know what? Usually when you give up a rental who's not a guy with term, you're not going to give up a really good young prospect. You give up a draft pick. So I think they felt like when you look at that deal, it was like the pick for him. And then they thought it was two minor league guys, but Kesselring at the time was a minor league defenseman with no NHL experience, but he was a young kid, and he's emerged. Now, I don't think he's a top
6'4" right shot defenseman. No, but he's probably a second pair guy.
Yeah, I think he's probably a number 4, maybe number 5.
He's trending there,
team.
right? But now look at what the Oilers are trying to scrounge up on defense. He would have been in their top 4 right now, probably.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, although at the time they didn't, I don't think they, at the time they had Ceci and Desharnais, that's over 2 years ago. So it just shows you sometimes how things change quickly, but they obviously misread just his talent. But I don't think they thought that from the time that trade happened till now, I don't think there's many people that thought their right defense would be decimated to the level it has been.
Agreed. Just pointing out that it's a trade that no one really talks about or thinks about.
Yeah, it's a good trade for them, for Utah, no question. And they're going to need him now more than ever. He's just outlined Dursey out until February. That's not a short term.
Yeah, we're talking months.
Yeah, so it's not ideal. Now there are some other teams, Frank, that we've talked about, like San Jose still giving up a lot of shots. Montreal, same thing. You look at a team like Nashville early on. It's only 3 games, but right now their top 6 doesn't have a goal 5-on-5. They, Novak, who started the season in the line with Stamkos, but then they moved him and played him with Evangelista, and they've got 2 goals together as a duo. And the Preds they can't score. They're getting killed. They get the worst goal for percentage 5-on-5, being outscored 11-3. What do you make of the early season struggles for Nashville?
Yeah, 6 goals in 3 games. Just surprising given the firepower that they added. It's kind of like looking at the Oilers through their first 3 games saying, could you imagine if, McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, all these guys basically combined for a total of 3 points? That's kind of like what you're on a similar scale as what you're looking at with the Preds. The interesting thing is Andrew Brunette has actually been quite vocal, and you can go back and find the clips, and maybe he sensed that this might be a bit of a slow start. He was saying in late September that this is going to take time. So I don't think there's a huge amount of concern. They've been in every game. It's not like they're getting their doors blown off. Maybe that Seattle game got away from them a little bit, but yeah, I mean, they have to score. There's no doubt about that. It's not really registering on my scale of things to be concerned about. Not like Colorado is, for instance.
True, but in that Central Division, man, you look at Winnipeg, great start. Dallas, Nashville was hoping maybe to get home ice. If you want home ice, I don't think you can dig yourself too deep of a hole in that division. Now you mentioned Colorado, so that's a team that they're like, okay, there's one less team that's at least struggling with us. But you look at those top two teams specific, and I think that's where Nashville doesn't want to lose sight of is Nashville and Dallas and Winnipeg.
They just need to play. I mean, Utah's played 5 games already. Look out east. New Jersey's played 6. The Preds have played 3 games. That's it.
Well, they got their kryptonite though. Their next game, they take on the Oilers. Leon Draisaitl. So you look at runs where where 2 guys kind of light up a team. Leon Draisaitl's last 14 games against Nashville, he has 23 goals and 37 points in 14 games.
37 points in 14 games?
Yeah.
Is that good?
That's not bad. 23 goals. And on the road.
23 goals in 14 games. And he's been even better in Nashville, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he has. That's exactly. Him and McDavid both, they've absolutely shredded Nashville here. They're 11 1-2 in those 14 games, which of course, because when one guy scoring 23 goals, you got a pretty good chance to win. And so, I'm kind of curious to see because Frank, you golf lots. Think about your mental state when you go and golf at whatever your favorite course is. And I have success at this course. When you walk on to the driving range, you're like, I'm going to golf good today. And then there's some courses you go to, like for me, I'm like, God, I hate this course and I suck. It doesn't matter. I couldn't imagine being Leon Draisaitl walking into Nashville when they play there. He's got that net's got to look like it's a soccer goal. And he's just like, hey, I'm here. He's had 11. And it's funny, out of those 14 games, 11 of them are multi-point games. He has more 5-point games than he does 2-point games.
Yeah. Some things are just,
doesn't make sense.
Yeah. They defy logic.
Yeah, and Nashville's, it's not like they're beating up on, no offense to San Jose, right? One of the worst teams in the league. It's UC Saros and the Preds are a pretty good team.
Just victimizing them.
Yeah. So that's one of the best runs I've seen. I was looking up numbers. I got the NHL guys looking up some stats because over a 14 game stretch, 23 goals, 37 points. That's pretty good.
Like Crosby against the Flyers. By the way, McDavid, oddly enough, has really good numbers against the Flyers.
Against Philly? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw before the other day he had 31 points in 14 games.
Yeah. Well, McDavid actually is on a 13-game point streak with 33 points in 13 games. So the two of them right now have been feasted, which if I'm Chris Knobloch, I would leave them together for one more game till he probably separates them against Dallas.
Were you surprised they went to that early?
No, not at all.
You think it was, you had
to. Their top, and honestly, their top guys were terrible in that game until the last 5 minutes.
I know.
When they scored that highlight reel goal.
Sometimes that's all it takes, though.
Yes. For the elite players, it does. Because Evan Bouchard could barely stick handle the puck, it seemed, for the first 3 games. It was stunning to me. I don't get it. Right? That's his strength. If you're sitting there and saying, wow, Bouchard can't defend. All right. Maybe you'd be like, okay, not a huge surprise, but not handle the puck, that was odd. So that's kind of like when you said Nashville, their top guys like Stamkos, no points. But their power play, how about this? Their power play, Frank, is in 21 minutes has 30 shots. It's like an 87 shot per 60, which is ridiculously high, but they only have 1 goal. So you got to think eventually they're going to score, but it's that their power play numbers right now are stunning to me, and how many shots they're getting on the power play, but can't score. 1 goal on 30 shots in the man advantage.
I can guarantee you this. The Nashville Predators will not be 30th out of 32 in goals for this season.
No, they'll get going. Preds fans, I think they'll be fine. Now, quickly, one other goalie topic, and it's not about playing poorly, but it's
by the way, their PDO, another, it's sort of, everyone says it's maybe the best indicator of luck in the NHL. The closer you are to 100 would be sort of even, not lucky or unlucky. Anything above 100, you're more lucky than unlucky. The Preds are at 88.7. So kind of gives you some indication.
Yeah, they can't score to save their life. Not getting a lot of saves. The Linus Ullmark injury for the Senators. What were you hearing, and how concerned are they in Ottawa?
So he's a possibility to play tonight. So I think they're just being extra careful that they want to make sure that he's right. But obviously, whatever he's been going through so far to start this season, missing time during camp, clearly something is nagging and bothering him, and they got to fix that. Like, they got to nip that in the bud. So if it means sitting out a little bit more, I think that's probably the smart play. But Travis Green was saying possibility to play tonight against New Jersey.
Oh, okay. Because a lot of the Ottawa guys were saying they wouldn't play till Saturday. So, which is fine. It might only be, but when you start to get little nagging issues for a goaltender on a team that really needs goaltending, or solid goaltending, I should say, that's a team that needs to continue on. And what a crazy game, 8-7 against LA on Monday afternoon. That was old school 80s, Frank. And speaking of goal scoring, I know you asked last pod about is it easier to score 30 goals? So I blame you for me doing the research. I wrote the article about it. I went back and looked at 30
blame me.
goal
You should
seasons.
thank me. You got a story out of it.
And but it was a lot of research on it. And I was stunned to see the increase in empty net goals in the NHL. There used to be like 100 a year across the league in the 80s when there's lots of goals. You're up to over 400, almost 500 a few years ago at 477. Now, I know that's because teams pull their goalie a lot sooner, but I think
it's also an effect of the score. Think about how many lopsided games there were because of all the goals that were scored in the 80s. It wasn't odd to have a 6-2 or 7-2 game. There's no reason to pull the goalie. The games are a lot closer now. The margin for victory, I think, is a lot closer.
Yeah, that might be part of it. But I think the big difference, you just look at the last 3 years. Look at the jump in the last 3 seasons alone in empty net goals in the NHL, right? They're way up over 400 now, 477, 447. There was only 2016 was the first time there was ever over 300 in the NHL in one season. And so I think it's a lot of strategy. Guys are pulling their goalies sooner. And the other thing is, you used to have a lot of your defensive forwards on the ice protecting leads late in games. Now you have the best players who, when they get the puck, have a way better chance of putting it in the net. I think that plays a factor as well. Because I was looking at the amount of empty net goals scored by like the top 30 goal scorers, and it's a massive difference, right? Like last year, the top empty net goal scorers, or a few years ago, was Ovechkin, McDavid, Kyle Connor, and those guys, 6 of them combined for 47 empty net goals. In the 80s, you'd have those top guys combined, all the 60, 30 goal scorers would have like 45. So,
well, don't forget, we're also playing an additional 82 games per year because of 2 extra teams since 2016-17.
Yeah, that adds a little bit.
We were playing 1,230 games a season. Now there's 1,312.
Yeah, but if you go, but the increase isn't comparable. Like you had 292 empty net goals, and now you have 477. 2 extra teams aren't making it that much of an increase.
No, but it's 82 additional contests. It's not 2 extra teams. That's the difference, though. It's got to be a huge part of it.
But right? It didn't jump up that much when Vegas.
The schedule increased by 7%. What did the goal scoring increase by? 20 something?
Oh yeah, way more than that for empty netters.
25
yeah, went up significantly. Yeah, so it's because like you look at like the last 3 years are 477, 438, and 447. That's the most ever. And like that, well, they did have 408 one other year. So empty net strategy has changed. Like guys will pull their goalie with 3 minutes left. It used to be like with 45 seconds. So I think that's a big.
The longer, statistically, the longer it is that you pull your goalie, the better advantage you have.
Yeah. But your original question was, is it easier to score 30 goals now than ever before? It is, if you up until the 90s. In the mid 90s, there was more 30 goal scores. But I did look at the amount of 30-goal scorers who have empty net goals. And let's be honest, empty net goal is the easiest goal to score. And lately, the guys, 30-goal scorers, are scoring way more empty net goals than ever before. So in theory, it is easier.
I'm so torn on the empty net goal because your coach has to trust you enough to be out there in those last minutes.
Yeah. But they've changed, right? I think that like you used to have, the Steve Kaspers and the Guy Carbonos, those guys are out there protecting leads. And now the NHL, it's like your top 6 guys are usually out there.
Did we just get a Casper reference?
Yeah. Hey, buddy, Steve Casper is a pretty good defensive player.
Like 1982 Selke winner.
Yeah.
The friendly ghost.
Yeah. And you don't see a lot of.
Honestly, teams. I haven't even heard the name Steve Casper in 20 years. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, there you go. It's one of those rare cards you pull out. So I like it. I just remember back when they used to shadow guys, like young fans are like, what are you guys talking about? They probably don't even remember when literally, so it would be like
one of his nicknames was the Shadow.
Yeah. So it would be like, pick your best player, McDavid, McKinnon, Matthews, Pasternak. I don't care. Pick one and imagine the opposing team's third line center literally shadowing them around the ice. Like, it's mind blowing to think that that's what used to happen.
But it also makes you think at some point, should someone go back to that? Is that a bananas idea to say shadowing it could be in vogue again?
Oh, God. Wow.
Hey, it depends on who's doing the shadowing, I guess. But if you just had someone that's, pick whoever it is, we're going to put so-and-so against Austin Matthews. We want you to be like a fly on shit next to Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
Is that the worst idea anyone's ever heard?
No, well, they did it for a time. It would, well,
why
it sure
don't
is
they
annoying.
do it more?
Yeah, it's a fair question, but I remember talking like the star players hated it, right? But they still managed to score goals, obviously. But
that's the best part. The star players hate it. So get them frustrated, get them angry.
And you would there'd be certain guys that were better at it, right, than others. No question about it. Right. Like I remember Star saying like Tikkanen, because he'd give a woodpecker a headache. And he was just like, you look at certain guys around the league nowadays, I look and say, okay, who's a really good pest who would be good at it?
Marchand would be good at it.
Yeah, but he's kind of a star guy, right? So do you do it? I guess maybe you could, but trying to think of like third and fourth line guys who, and then the other thing is matchups now. Like most coaches, it's power on power. Right. There's the odd team like Lowry's line in Winnipeg. They'll play against anybody and they can do very well. But most times it's your top 6 plays against our top 6 for probably 70% of the time. So
I'd love to see someone.
It'd be a good question to ask a coach to say, have you considered it? And if not, why not? It would just be a good question. So John Cooper, I think he'd be a coach I'd want to get on that. So,
Rod Brindamore. That's who I want to ask.
Oh yeah. Now Rod.
Is Rod getting a little crustier, by the way? I noticed that he's not giving out his starting goalie anymore. Can someone explain to me I'm not knocking him. I'm saying in general, can someone please explain to me the idea of someone asking the coach at morning skate who's starting tonight? And he goes, you'll find out later. What is the advantage?
I guess they feel like, here's the thing. They've already done their pre-scouting on the goalie.
I can guarantee you that no team cares which goalie's in net. Really. They're not changing their game plan or their approach.
No. All you do is you have like a 30-second, hey guys, here's some tendencies. This guy might be low blocker, high glove. Done. That's it. You don't change your forecheck. You don't change anything else. That's the only thing you consider.
But then they get all angry about it. Oh, I'm not. Don't ask me. I'm not talking about it. It's like, well, okay. I mean, sure.
Dude, it's like the goalie who can't talk at 11 a.m. for a 7 o'clock puck drop because it's his routine. And then you talk to any sports psychologist, it's like nobody can focus for that long and be successful. It's moronic. Like, it is the dumbest thing that's allowed, is that a goalie doesn't talk on game day.
Well, it's
Give me a
not
break.
allowed technically, FYI. And
I
second,
know.
half the time, this is just a team and their PR staff and their GM making it up.
Yes.
The goalie
agreed.
has no problem talking to anyone, but they want to go out of their way. In fact, like, I've been in some dressing rooms where like the goalie will engage with you in conversation as you're just standing there, just shooting the shit about whatever.
Yeah.
And then the PR guy will come over and say, no, he doesn't talk on game day. Like, buddy, he talked to me. It's not like I'm not pursuing this, FYI.
I know. Yeah.
It's unbelievable sometimes.
Yeah. The helicopter PR guy is the worst PR guy or girl.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do?
There's not many. There's a few around the league and they know who they are, but there's lots that are great. So, and like, I've talked to lots, like the goalies you talk to, and they're like, yeah, dude, like talking to guys for 5 minutes has zero impact on how I play in a game. 8 hours before the game starts.
5 minutes before the game starts. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't have any impact.
No, it should have none.
Why is it that Sidney Crosby or whoever it is can do a bench interview during warmups?
Well, fair point.
I think he's fine.
Yeah, seems to figure it out. Now, the other thing, speaking of goalies, there's been a real run on some odd goalie interference goals that have been called back in Tampa Bay's game. The Rangers have had it. Edmonton's had it. You talk about Brindamore. Carolina had one. I was told there was no memo that was sent out because sometimes, Frank, okay, we're cracking down on interference. We're cracking down on this. There was nothing that said we're going to crack down on it. And you see guys, because here's the thing, when they say they're in the crease, but what is the actual definition of the crease? Because if your feet are outside the crease, Frank, and I'm standing with my butt to the goalie, but my feet are outside the crease, but if I'm bent over, well, guess what? My rear end's in the crease. So is that in the crease? Is it like offside? Is it any body part? I don't think there's a distinct, clear portion of this. And the NHL's got to figure it out, because you don't want to be like the NFL. Remember the NFL for a few years, Frank? No one knew what a catch was. And then they finally figured it out what a catch was, but it took a long time. The NHL early on this year, there seems to be a lot of uncertainty on what is actually goalie interference.
If you know how to define it or what it looks like, please tell me, because it should be easily definable. It should be something that you look at and immediately 95 times out of 100, you're correct in what your initial gut reaction is. Did that cross the threshold? It's kind of like a Hall of Fame debate. What's your initial gut reaction? Is that guy a Hall of Famer? Did he make a big enough impact? Like, whatever you initially think, there's rare exceptions, some interesting case, some stat, something to present that really makes you think. But for the most part, whatever your initial reaction is what it should be. And that doesn't mean you can't be informed. It doesn't mean that you don't look at all the angles, all those things. I can't believe some of the calls that we've had to this point. Screening has taken the goalie's eyes away has been the name of the game forever.
Yes.
And not only that, but then there's this whole idea of, well, did he have a chance to reset? Could you imagine telling guys in the 90s or 2000s, hey, the goalie didn't have a chance to reset? They'd look at you like you had 17 heads. It's become so soft, so inconsistent, and so in need of a change. The problem is, I don't know how you fix it. I really don't, because they opened Pandora's box when they went to this, and it's going to be nitpicked to death. And that's really just not the nature of the sport.
Well, because I'm reading because it's anybody who wants to, you can go read it. It's in the rule book. It's rule 69, and there's like 0.1 all the way to 0.7, right? Which is part of the issue.
Did you say 69?
Yes. Nice.
Okay.
And, because it starts with 69.1, Frank, is interference on the goalie. Then 69.2 is when it's a penalty, is contact inside the goal crease is one, contact outside the goal crease is another. And it's nuts to me, like rebounds and loose pucks, because this was the one, the Esimont goal was disallowed for Tampa, and then the Michkov goal was allowed for Edmonton. And when you watch the plays, they kind of look the same. I did see where maybe Esimont, they felt like the puck was up against the pad, whereas Michkov, he kept hammering it in and out of the pad, so it was never really stopped. That's the only thing I could see is the difference, why one was counted and one wasn't, right? But so I get it, it's a difficult one, but when it involves the most important aspect of your game, which is goals, because that's what determines the outcome, it should be a little clearer, I think, than it currently is.
But they already tried to make it clearer and more consistent by taking the decision out of the hands of the officials and putting it in the hands of the situation room. Yeah. I don't know if most fans realize that when the refs are looking at the iPad in the penalty box, they're literally they're along for the ride. They have no say.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from the situation room.
Yeah.
They might ask the official, hey, what did you see? But they're looking at it in real time in the situation room. So they're seeing what the official saw, not what the official thinks they saw.
And it's not always the same person, right? So you're never going to have
like 6 to 8 people that work in the situation room on a given nightly basis. So the idea was over, again, 1,312 regular season games, limiting the size and scope of the people making these decisions will produce more consistency. Yeah. They've already done that. Are they drawing a harder line now on what is or isn't interference?
That's my question.
But no one has said that's the case.
No, that's because I asked that specific question to a GM and he's like, no, we got no memo because that's being sent out. And I'm fine if they do. I have no problem with it, but it just doesn't seem like it's clear enough.
Like if that is the new standard, like we're all in for a lot fewer goals this season.
Yeah. And I like there was one, people in Edmonton got mad. The Hyman one was obvious. It came right through the crease, touched the goalie. That was a no-brainer one to me. But the Corey Perry one, I didn't get. I didn't see the difference between the Esimont and the Michkov goal. The Matt Rempe one in New York, I'm like,
it's
what?
Insane.
That one was ridiculous.
One and Perry are like, I just don't get it.
Yeah. It's almost like, wow, hey, you know what? You're too close to the goalie. And like when it says you impair his vision, I'm like, isn't that what screening the goalie is supposed to be?
That's why I just said that for the test of time, that's been what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. It was
make
odd.
It difficult on him to track the puck, find the puck, and make the save.
So hopefully it's just early on and it sorts itself out, because otherwise you're going to have a lot of people frustrated. Fans, players, coach, because the players, everyone you talk to, set the rule, whatever it is, the standard, they'll adhere to it. They will, as long as you are consistent. And because every player you talk to said, just tell me what it is. I don't have to like it, but as long as I know what it is, then it's up to me to adapt to it. It's that simple.
And I get that totally. Tyler asked me on yesterday's Daily Faceoff Live, will we see essentially I forget exactly how he framed it. Was he saying, Tyler, do you want to hop in real quick? Were you saying that we'd see like a crackback of how this all works?
Yeah, will there be like any sort of change from the league? Basically, I'm kind of forgetting it now. It was an Ask DFO inbox question that we got that was like, can the league basically unopen Pandora's box and like change the way reviews work? But you kind of said, like Gary said, like, if you guys want to do this, do it, and like I'm telling you not to, kind of deal.
I was there at the GM meeting. He was full-throated defense of why we should not go to any sort of video review, which then ultimately led to coach's challenge. He was saying this is not the spirit of the game. That's not what this game has ever been, is about nitpicking every offside, every skate blade hanging in the air, every goalie interference call. It should be pretty quick and move on. This is only designed to catch the egregious, and that wasn't good enough.
Yeah, no, not good. Ty's here, so let's keep him on. for another rip-roaring edition of his segment. Ty, how are you?
I am good. Got a new edition of Fill in the Blank. It's brought to you by our friends at Bet365. You can sign up today and use the promo code DAILY365 to get in on a huge range of markets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Let's start with an easy one. I think I kind of know your guys' answer based on the conversation you had earlier, but there are 4 winless teams still in the NHL: San Jose, Vancouver, Nashville, and the only team who's played 4 times and hasn't won, the Colorado Avalanche. But the team you're least concerned about is blank, Frank.
Nashville. Yeah, I just think they're going to find a way to score. I think their defense is pretty stout, and Saros is good in net. I don't see any issues in Nashville.
I'm going to go with Vancouver. I think the Canucks they'll sort itself out here. I like their coach. I think they got enough good players. I think Pettersson will have a pulse here soon, and I think Vancouver is a team that's got more, and they got a few overtime losses. They've been close.
Man, did everyone shit on me when I said that I didn't think Vancouver is going to be as good this year? You hate the Canucks. No, buddy, I was the early adopter for the Canucks last year, telling you that they were going to make the playoffs. I just think, look at that team, their defense. I think they really struggle outside of their top pair. I really do. And can we do we all need to acknowledge Thatcher Demko isn't here? Like, that's a real thing.
Oh yeah.
Not to mention Pettersson. Yeah,
he's been MIA.
I don't know what's happened there. That is a tough one to figure out.
Yeah. Neither of you guys said the Colorado Avalanche, which ties in nicely to my next one. There is a blank % chance that Alexander Georgiev is on the Avs roster come playoff time, Jason.
Oh, I think he'll be on the raw. I would say 90% chance. Unless they're going to send him the minors. I don't see how you're going to trade him. So I would say it's pretty high chance he's still there.
Yeah, like where I was going was, like, if they were going to upgrade their goaltending, they're so tight to the cap. He's a pending UFA. Like, if they're going to upgrade, he's probably just going the other way in the deal to make the money work, right? And
that's fair.
It's a question of, will they upgrade their goaltending then?
I just don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. They just don't have the cap space to do it. You have to ship someone out in order for that to happen. You either need to have Landeskog officially declare, I am done for the season, and you can spend his money, or you move on from Nichushkin or something. I don't see any other path to getting there.
I know it sounds heartless for the Avs, but yeah, they need a defined answer here from Landeskog. I understand the loyalty thing, but they're just like, guys, like, you hope he plays again. I get his willingness and understanding to do it, but from a business standpoint, I understand how it's limiting any moves they can make.
Fair. Over on Bet365, there has been one division that has seen its odds-on leader change from the beginning of the season until now, even though the season is 10, 13 days old, whatever it is now. But it's in the Atlantic, where the Leafs have leapfrogged the Florida Panthers as the favorites to win the division. So I will ask you guys, the Leafs have a blank % chance of winning the division. Frank?
45%? 50%? It's a lot. I mean, it should be high. I just think that team's pretty decently constructed to be able to go do it. Ekman Larson has been a huge bonus for them. We still have yet to see Joe Wall. Like, Stolarz has been, I love his body language, and Matt Larkin just wrote about it today on Daily Faceoff. He's been confident. And we still haven't really seen Austin Matthews take off yet. So I don't see any reason. They were my pick to win the division to start the year. I think the Leafs do win the division.
Yeah, I'll stick with I had him picked to win the division too. Now, I don't know what the odds. Obviously, the odds aren't good. Like, even though I picked them to win, doesn't mean like it's 90%. It's, when you look at Boston and Florida and Tampa Bay, it's a tough division. So, heck, 40% might be high. That's probably what I'll go with.
Fair. Last one I got for you guys. Matvei Michkov has seen his odds increase in the Calder Trophy race. He's created some separation from Celebrini and Stankoven. Greg's, you got a chance to see him up close and personal. Frank, you've obviously seen him. He scored twice the other day in Edmonton. Matvei Michkov finishes the season with blank amount of goals. Jason?
You know what? He reminds me a little bit of Kaprizov. I was really impressed watching him live. He's engaged. He's involved in the play. I like everything about him. Now I picked him to win the Calder, so I'm going to say that Michkov scores 27 goals.
Oh, I had 20 for whatever reason. 28 popped into my mind.
Okay,
I could easily see him getting to 30.
Yes, me too.
And I think he's going to score 8 goals this season on the goal line, like he did against Edmonton. That's what he does. And until teams key in on that, he's going to score a boatload of them.
Yeah. Well, I really like. I could see. I had a good chat with Keith Jones, about Michkov, and you know what? Obviously, they're happy because he came over a little bit sooner than anybody expected. But he's been really impressed just with his tenacity as a player. He knew he was highly skilled, but his tenacity, like he's engaged, he's in the play, he's in scrums, he's grabbing guys in headlocks. Like he is not a perimeter player.
I feel like Jay is repeating my scouting report from September when I talked about this. I called him a junkyard dog. That's what he is.
I like, and like he's really stocky, right? He's 5'10" maybe, but he's quite stocky. Now the other guy who I don't think is going to stick, but that Luchenko kid can flat out fly for the Flyers.
He lives up to his name.
Dude, he does. Like, yeah, your name's Jet and you're slow. That would not be a good name, but
Could you imagine someone named Jet and they had the body build of me? Like what? Is it the opposite day? What's going on here?
But man, I'm telling you, the Flyers don't really have a lot of speed down the middle, Frank. And so when you look at, if I'm a Flyer fan looking down the road, I'm not saying he's going to be a first line producing player, but the way the game's going, you need to have speed down the middle. And this guy, his first shift, I'm like, look at this kid. Like he was up the ice so fast, and he just turned 18. Like he's 18 in 2 months. Like obviously they got to send him back to junior. It'd be ridiculous. I think it's not a teenager league, especially when you're just a newly teenager, but this is going to be great for him. Experience, good for his pocketbook to get a little bit of cash for a bit. Then he goes back to junior and I think he'll be fine, but he is Flyer fans should be quite excited about what the future has with him.
I think the tough part for the Flyers is going to be, you listen to John Tortorella and he cannot stop singing the praises of Luchenko. And if you see their behind the scenes video from training camp, he was pushing to keep him from the beginning. The tougher part's going to be trying to convince John Tortorella that that's not the best thing, because the coach never really cares about what 5 years from now looks like. And that push and pull is always incredibly important. I'm not saying he would derelict his duty as sort of the, guy helping steer this franchise. I think he's more in tune to the long term than just about any other coach, given the power that he has there. But that's going to be a real tough conversation if they go to him and say, hey, we got to 9 games. We see the upside. We love this kid, but we think the best play is to send him back to junior.
Yeah, I don't see it happening.
That is a wrap. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I think they will make the smart move here, guys.
Yeah. All right. That is a wrap on this week's edition of Fill in the Blank, brought to you by Bet365.
Last thing, what's more petty? Is it Jets fans celebrating that Rutger McGroarty was sent to the AHL, or is it Flyers fans celebrating that Cutter Gauthier was benched twice in his 3rd NHL game?
I didn't. Which one's more petty? It's tough, man. I can see why both fan base like, oh, you guys didn't want to be here. I would say
if you didn't like Winnipeg, wait till you get a load of Wilkes-Barre Scranton. And I can say that as a Pennsylvanian who's been there many, many times.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go with, I'm going to say the Flyers fans, because they got Jamie Drysdale at least. So they got Jamie Drysdale. So there's something that they can be happy about. Winnipeg doesn't really have anything for their guy. So
right now.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess right now, if I had to pick one, and I like fence sitting, then I will pick the Flyer fans. A little bit more petty because they got Jamie Drysdale, who's looked a lot better early this year.
January, I think it's 20th. Cutter Gauthier.
Is that when they come to? Oh, You mean the Flyer fans aren't going to have a warm welcome for him?
Dude, I hope his shield fits in his carry-on. He's going to need one of those like SWAT things.
Oh God. Yeah. You know what? I kind of like when there's random animosity games in just, especially like the dog days of the season. Honestly,
how about last night's Bruins Avalanche game? That got a little heated. And I'm like, since when do these two teams hate each other?
That's great. Hey, when was the last time you saw back-to-back tilts in a game, Frank? The Flyers-Oilers game, Stetcher, Couturier, and then Perry and Fairby. Like, you just don't see that anymore.
January 11th, by the way. Saturday, January 11th, Ducks at Flyers.
Ooh.
Appointment television.
Hot ticket in Philly. Hot ticket, January 11th. Frankie, have a good week, a good weekend. We'll chat with you next week. That's a rundown brought to you by episode 328 from Fountain Tire. You got tire issues, you got car issues. Guess what? They can fix them both. FountainTire.com. Take it easy.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.